Welcome to this Zabbix webinar, API communication. Please, if you have any questions, throw them in the comment section below and I will try to answer on it. So, having said that one, let's dive into the topic. First things first, let me introduce myself. So, my name is Brian van Bakel. I'm working as a Zabbix trainer, Zabbix consultant at Open Source ICT Solutions. And we are a Zabbix partner in the Netherlands, United Kingdom, United States. Zabbix is our core business. So we do not do anything else than, well, Zabbix services basically, all around the world 24/7. And that also means that we are quite often building new environments where we need to update configuration or to add new hosts or templates, etc. And yes, you can do that manually, of course. Technically, that's no limitation, but it can be extremely time consuming. So we have some other mechanism for it, and that's going to be the API. API, Application Programming Interface. And within Zabbix, that one is used for all different kind of things. I don't know, export host based on some sort of search string, reassign host to a different proxy, import data, so templates, actions, users, whatever you want, um, creating maintenance mode, or removing it just from a map, acknowledge closest specific problem, get out values, try to get out alerts, try to get out reports, well, there are so many different options to utilize with the API in combination of Zabbix that it is a kind of important concept when you are trying to manage bigger environments. So we are using it quite often, and in order to start using it, we must understand how it works, what's going on. So the API, and it sounds a bit strange, is part of the web server. And that means that you must have some sort of Zabbix front end installed in order to get the API working. It is fully based on the JSON RPC 2.0 protocol. So it is using a JSON format in the RPC remote procedure call. In order to communicate, to talk to the Zabbix API, you open a query to whatever URL or IP address /Zabbix/API underscore JSON RPC.php. And from there you start pushing in, well, all different API calls that you would like to do. Talking about those API calls, it is in a JSON format, and that means that it must follow some sort of structure, some sort of specific format. So for Zabbix, it is always looking, well, somewhat like this. We start with JSON RPC 2.0, and then we call the method. And the method, what would we like to do here? So in this example, host.get, but it could have been host.create or history.get or whatever method is available. Each method got its own parameters to provide. So that's the next part, and that's an object or an array to define what you would like to do. So here we have host.get, and in the parameters we are telling output should be the name, status, available, errors, errors from. And we are filtering on an available state of 2, whatever it may be. Then we have some sort of authentication token, because of course an authenticated API access is not what you want. And we've got some sort of ID, which can be just one, which can be something else, of course, but it is used to match the response to the request that you did. Okay, I already mentioned authentication briefly. What's going on? Well, the API is part of the web server and it is following the permission system completely, one-to-one follow of the permission system. If a user in the front end cannot see a host, that same user cannot get out that host via the API. If the user got read-only access, then via the API he will have read-only access. So that's really, really well done by Zabbix. API calls are logged in the audit logs, and of course SSL or TLS, basically HTTPS secure connections, are supported. Regarding the different methods, well over 230 right now. And that basically means that you can do everything that you can think of. So whatever you can do in the front end can be done via the API. But you need to authenticate first, of course. Now we've got two different options here for the older Zabbix versions, and then I'm talking about everything older than 5.4. You should use API method user.login and get out the token. Or in the newer version, you can still log in or use the API token defined in the front end. And of course, tokens are preferred because then you are not sharing credentials in some sort of scripts. The next thing that we need to discuss, and we hear this one quite often actually, API access or direct database queries. Well, in the end, I prefer the API. And if you're a database expert, of course, go for it. Zabbix is not limiting you. However, an API request is a bit more safe, because what it will do, for example, when you create a host, you call the method host.create via the API, and it will update all relevant information in the database. So it will do an insert into the host table, into the interface table, host macros, etc., etc. With direct database queries, you must craft those queries one by one yourself. And in order to do so, you need a very good understanding of the database structure, which can be a challenge. So I prefer the API. Not only for, well, not playing around with the database, not understanding what's going on, but also performance. And of course, the validation, etc., that is done by the API, which is not done by the database queries. So yeah, in the end, it's up to you. Whenever I get the chance, I will use the API. And if that's not possible, then of course, direct database queries are perfectly fine. Okay, having sorted out this one, let's get into the flow. So, I assume we are using a Zabbix more recent than 5.4, so we can use the API tokens. We can do that in a few different ways. First, you can go to Administration, General, API tokens, and then manage all API tokens or create new ones. Or if you want to have an API token for the user that you are logged in with, just go into your user settings, click on API tokens, and you will have that same view here. In that view, you will basically see this, where you specify the name of that token so that it's easy to identify it later on. You specify the username, and that is only the case when you're looking via Administration General. You give it some sort of description. Well, that one is rather clear, I think. And then you set an expiration date and time. Or not. I mean, you can uncheck that box and there we are. Should this token be enabled or not? It's up to you. I think it should be enabled, of course, otherwise it's really useless. But yeah, you can already prepare it, keep it disabled, so that you can, I don't know, build your scripts, whatever needs to be done, and then later on enable it so it can be used in a production environment. You click on Add, you will see the API token in the front end, which you can simply copy to the clipboard. And once you close that page, the token is not visible anymore. Of course, security-wise, it should not be visible. The other option is user.login. And I picked an example using curl here because that one is really um, working on all systems without installing anything else. So curl, we are posting with a header content type application JSON, and then we are adding a payload here. Well, the payload JSON RPC user.login, username, password, authentication. Well, we do not have an authentication yet, so null. ID something, and we are executing this one against the API URL. Hopefully you will get back something like this. JSON RPC 2.0 result, and this is going to be your token. Of course, curl is great, but if you prefer something else, go for it. For me, typically, it's going to be Postman or whatever, where you just craft your API queries and get back some sort of result. Now that we have the tokens, we can start utilizing it. And once again, I'm using the curl examples here so that it is somewhat easier to replicate, but it can be done however you prefer. Once again, curl post content type as a header with application JSON as the value for it. Then adding a payload, authentication token, ID, talking to some sort of URL. Well, the payload here, method host.get. Parameters, we are filtering on the host with the name Zabbix server. And of course, we are utilizing that authentication token that we previously obtained. Since we are just filtering on a host here, we will get back all information regarding this host. And well, we can see the host ID, the host name, the status, visible name, the flags, template ID, description. There are so many different fields here. And sometimes that's not really what you want. Because the only thing that you care about is, I don't know, the host ID or the status or whatever you prefer. Well, in that case, we are going to add the output part. So we are just reusing that same query again. But right now we added output, which is an array of host ID, status. And we are telling Zabbix, get the host with the name Zabbix server. And the only thing that we care about is the host ID and the status. Hopefully, this is what you see. Result, host ID 10,627, status is 1. And that way you can really filter already on what you would like to receive as a reply. You do not always need all unnecessary information. Should we do this with curl? I don't know. It's really up to you. However, there are some other options as well. And quite popular community library is Zabbix, where you can utilize an existing library to build whatever query should be done. To be honest, I never used this one. And I've got a very good reason for it. I built all my methods calls myself, because whenever Zabbix is updating the API, we might need to change those queries. And when we are relying on a community library, then we are relying on someone else to update that library and reflect the changes. Since we are building these things for customer environments, I cannot rely on a community library. So I'm building all my methods and calls myself. And yeah, that takes a bit more time typically. But at the same time, we can always guarantee that it works. Or if it stops working, we can quickly fix it. Nevertheless, it's really up to you which one you prefer to use. I mean, the Zabbix library is really decent. Okay, you are executing those API calls, and suddenly you get back some sort of error message. Well, that error message got an error code in it, and that error code is giving you information already what's going on. And typically I see the first one. So the 700 error code, invalid JSON because I made some sort of typo or whatever I did. And that's the most common one for me. However, the other ones, yeah, you might see them. They all got a decent meaning and it's easy to understand what you did wrong. What's not so easy is to build all queries from top of mind. And trust me, you don't have to, because if you go to the documentation of Zabbix, and in that documentation you find the API menu. So in the screenshot it's chapter 19. It might differ, of course, because what if Zabbix is adding more chapters, but 19 in the screenshot. And from here, method reference, we are looking for the host method, where we can see the full object and all different methods that are supported. And everything here is just nicely documented. And what is helping me personally, all those methods got examples. And of course, the examples do not always fit what I need, but at the same time, it's a great starting point to build my own queries, my own calls. So yeah, the documentation is essential if you ask me. What is also essential, in my perspective once again, is that you start building a flow where you know the objective, and from there you think how to get there. So objective, and I'm gonna build this one as well. Find all hosts in the host group Linux servers. Then replace the value for tag location with the value on-prem. To location with value cloud. So basically we are telling all Linux servers that were hosted on premises are moved to the cloud, and we would like to have Zabbix reflect that change. Okay, so this is the objective, how to get there. Okay, find all hosts in a host group. So first I need to have the group ID for that host group. Okay, hostgroup.get. Output can be extend or something else. I don't know yet what will be brought back to me, so I go for extend and I filter on the name Linux servers. Of course, I'm using that authentication token again, that API token, and I get back result group ID 2, name Linux servers internal 0. Okay, so I've got my group ID now. Once I got this one, I know that I'm looking for the hosts in group ID 2, and we can utilize it. So host.get output host ID. I honestly do not care about the host names here. The only thing I need is the host ID for the next step. We are filtering on host group ID 2. We would like to get all tags out, default type 0, and the tags we are looking for is tag location value on-prem operator 1, and I think this one is equals. Once again, documentation is essential here. Anyways, we are getting out hopefully some hosts with this tag. Response host ID 10,085. Okay, apparently just one host. Sure. Now that I've got the host ID, I can update the tags. So we remember this one, and then we call the method host.update. Parameters host ID 10,085, tags, tag, location, value, cloud. And we are just pushing this one into Zabbix, and we get back result host ID 10,085. So it is not really giving me the confirmation what has been changed, only that it was done, was successful. And with this method, with this workflow, I built all my scripts basically. So then that's really, really important to think of what would you like to achieve, which steps do you need. And trust me, kinda often you think, okay, I need a host ID in this group. Okay, but then I first need the group ID. So you add an extra call and an extra call, and well, in the end you end up with more calls than you anticipated, but that's perfectly fine. Then of course the question is, what else? Well, I don't know. And it's really up to you, because basically anything that you are doing in the front end manually right now can be automated via API methods. So it's really up to you. Be creative, because that's basically the limitation here. I mean, if you go to blog.zabbix.com, you will find a blog post that I wrote, I think 3 years ago, for proxy high availability without complex cluster setup. Well, completely done via API. If a proxy is gone, find all hosts on that proxies, move it to the other proxy, reload everything on the other proxy, and well, we've got a high available proxy setup. Once again, follow the default flow here. And last but not least, if you are still using the user.login method, that's perfectly fine. But at the end of your script, utilize the user.logout method. Otherwise, you will get many different user sessions that are somewhat idle, eating up some resources for the front end. Okay, quick introduction to the API. Now, if you would like to learn more about Zabbix, that's possible. Like I said, I'm a Zabbix trainer as well. So me or one of my colleagues is providing all official Zabbix trainings. And we've got 4 core trainings and 5 extra trainings. The core trainings are a 1-day user training, a 5-day specialist training, a 3-day professional training, and once again a 5-day expert training. It really depends on your needs, of course, but the user training is to show you around in the front end and let you work with the front end. The specialist training is to configure hosts and templates and actions and dashboards. So that's a really good training. Then the professional training for the low-level discovery, a tiny bit of API, Java, ODBC, etc. And last but not least, the expert training, where we dive into all internals. We dive more into the API, more into security, more. And actually that expert training is really fun to provide. Complex, of course, it's the highest level, but really fun. Now, although you might be perfectly capable of managing your Zabbix environment, please know that we are providing official support as well. And then we are the first line of contact, so you always reach out to us, where we are available 24/7 if you want to help you with whatever Zabbix issue you might come across. So there are different support tiers, where we've got office hours support, 24/7 support, different perks, different options, different pricing, of course. So on our website, oicts.com/support, all options are listed, including the default pricing. And of course, feel free to reach out if we can do anything regarding support. The other services we are providing, and that's actually how we make a living, is upgrading your Zabbix from whatever version to the newest version, build some custom integration, build a turnkey solution where we, I don't know, start from a greenfield scenario and start building Zabbix, or we migrate from another tool into Zabbix, or well, whatever you prefer there. We can build templates, of course, remote troubleshooting. So if you have some sort of one-off issue and we are available, we can jump in and try to help you troubleshoot it. And of course, a large portion of my work, consultancy as well, where we design, where we advise, where we implement, where we do whatever needs to be done. And I already discussed the 24/7 support and the trainings. We are based in the Netherlands, but we do have presence in the United Kingdom and United States. So it really depends on the customer location. Um, yeah, which of the companies is gonna help you out. That's all I had for you regarding this webinar or YouTube recording. So hopefully you got something out of it. Once again, if you have any questions, uh, throw them in the comments section and I will try to answer it. And of course, hope to see you next time.